Gospel of Thomas, Logion 81-90. Logion 81, Jesus said, "Let him who has grown rich be king, and let him who possesses power renounce it." Interpretation of Jesus said, "Let him who has grown rich be king. Let him who has gathered his treasure, love and truth, into the kingdom within, be his own master, the king of his own domain, mind." Interpretation of, and let him who possesses power renounce it. And let him who possesses power over other people, renounce it. Let them be their own master also. Logion 82, Jesus said, "He who is near me is near the fire, and he who is far from me is far from the kingdom." Interpretation, note, see in Logion 10, Christ delivered the truth, which caused a fire of discontentment in the minds of those who heard it, a fire that would destroy the lies in men's minds, and awaken them spiritually, a fire that would cause discontentment with the world and its ways. He was guarding that fire until it blazed, and people began to call out for truth. Those who were near the fire were near to the one who had started it, and was fueling it. Those who were far from Jesus, were the ones not receiving his teachings, and so were far from entering the kingdom. Logion 83, Jesus said, "The images are manifest to man, but the light in them remains concealed in the image of the light of the Father. He will become manifest, but his image will remain concealed by his light." Interpretation of, Jesus said, "The images are manifest to man, but the light in them remains concealed in the image of the light of the Father." The fact that the self and mind exist, is obvious to the self, but the conscious awareness of these things, remains hidden in the subconscious. The self will become fully, consciously aware of itself, but the visual image of the self will remain hidden within consciousness. Interpretation of, he will become manifest, but his image will remain concealed by his light. When the mind is full of light, the self is also full of light, and the two are indistinguishable. Therefore, the image of the self cannot be seen in the light. The enlightened mind is the same as the Father's mind, the kingdom of heaven. The enlightened mind is the mind of one who has come to know himself, and that mind is full of love and truth. Logion 84, Jesus said, "When you see your likeness, you rejoice. But when you see your images which came into being before you, and which neither die nor become manifest, how much you will have to bear." Interpretation of, Jesus said, "When you see your likeness, you rejoice. When you come to know yourself, you rejoice." Interpretation of, but when you see your images which came into being before you. But when you realize the true nature of the self and the mind, that came into being before they came together as a soul. Interpretation of, and which neither die nor become manifest, how much you will have to bear. And which are immortal and invisible, how difficult will it be to accept the true nature of yourself. Logion 85, Jesus said, "Adam came into being from a great power and a great wealth, but he did not become worthy of you, for had he been worthy, he would not have experienced death." Interpretation of, Jesus said, Adam came into being from a great power. Adam came into being from the Father, as did every spiritual being. Adam is the name given to each and every, newly created spiritual being. Adam actually means, new man. Interpretation of, and a great wealth. The great wealth is the Father's treasures in heaven, they are the treasures of love and truth. Interpretation of, but he did not become worthy of you, for had he been worthy, he would not have experienced death. Every newly created spiritual being experiences spiritual death, loss of their true identity, because every newly created soul has to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The old self that had lost its true identity, is not worthy of the new self, that has come to know itself and become enlightened. Logion 86, Jesus said, "The foxes have their holes and the birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head and rest." Interpretation, the deceivers have their places to hide, and those who think they have all that they need, rest in their ignorance, but the Son of Man can find no place to rest his mind, for his love for others compels him to end their ignorance and suffering. There is nowhere to lay down the burden. Logion 87, Jesus said, "Wretched is the body that is dependent upon a body, and wretched is the soul that is dependent on these two." Interpretation, wretched is the spiritual body, the self, that is dependent upon the physical body, because the self believes that it is that physical body, and wretched is the soul, self and mind, that depends upon these two. Logion 88, Jesus said, "The angels and the prophets will come to you and give to you those things you already have. And you too, give them those things which you have, and say to yourselves, when will they come and take what is theirs?" Interpretation, the angels and the prophets will come to you through their teachings, and will confirm the truth that you already have inside of you. And you too do as they have done, and give to others the truth which you have, and say to yourselves, when will others come and take the truth that is theirs? Logion 89, Jesus said, "Why do you wash the outside of the cup? Do you not realize that he who made the inside is the same one who made the outside?" Interpretation: the outside of cup represents the physical body. The inside of the cup represents the soul. Both were made by God. There are those who cleanse their bodies and put on fine clothes to gain the respect of others, yet inside they are full of corruption. First cleanse the inside of the cup, because it is the inside of the cup that contains what you will drink. Logion 90, Jesus said, "Come unto me, for my yoke is easy and my lordship is mild, and you will find repose for yourselves." Interpretation: Jesus carries love and truth, instead of carrying the burden of the things of the world. As a teacher he was compassionate and caring, and those who became his students, disciples, found rest from worldly cares. LoveTheMeaningofLife.com